Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Wolf and welcome to the Jet gameplay. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the MiG-19, but first and foremost, I would like to congratulate my man Steve, also known as Fly Daddy, for finally getting engaged. Congratulations. Now, in other news, please stop sending me these emails, whoever you are. Honestly, youtube.ru, seriously, I mean, this is the most creative. The best part of this is that I received one of these emails and I put it up on Twitter as a joke, right? And people were like, obviously a scam. But my main concern, or complaint rather, it wasn't that, this was sent clearly as a phishing email, but the YouTube logo is so bloody damn pixelated, nobody's going to click on it. And little did I know that a couple of days later, I get the same email just with an HD logo. And I was like, oh, yeah, this time I'm definitely sending you my password, Stop trying, please, because it's not worth it. And since we're on the topic of internet security, there is something that I can't go without mentioning, and that is to today's sponsor, TorGuard VPN. If you're not using VPN in 2019, you are not just missing out, but you're probably doing things that are illegal, dangerous, and you might be in trouble. Get yourself one of these. It changes where your browsing location is based on. So instead of browsing from your local IP, you can be browsing from, I don't know, the middle of Tanzania. Nobody gives a shit about that. So next time you're trying to, illegally download that movie that you want to watch, or you want to browse some questionable things, or perhaps you just want to get access to Spotify, because we all know there are certain websites that provide certain customer service that is just not available in your country. If you've ever clicked on a YouTube video and it says, well, this content is blocked in Portugal or Brazil, that happened last time when I uploaded a video with a little clip from Casa del Papel, well, using a VPN service, changing it to any other country will allow you to, of course, watch that video free of choice. There'll be a link to TorGuard in the description. Have a look. Buy it, don't buy it, test it, whatever. I don't care. But secure your browsing experience. Otherwise, the Russians might come for you. And speaking of Russians, here is the MiG-19S. I think it's the 19S. It might be the 19PT. You know what? I don't know. It's the Russian MiG with an aerobatic camouflage with it's PT. There, I see it on the screen. I am a rusty jet pilot. Okay? I used to love F-Saber. I used to love the MiG-17, the Hunter F1. I used to be addicted to playing Air RB. As many of you probably recall, it was the one thing that sort of segued this channel into, I guess, mainstream. There was even a video that I made a really long time ago called F-Saber versus MiG-15 bis, and I don't think it exists anymore. I feel really bad because it was genuinely a good video on the differences between the two aircraft, but I digress. The MiG-19 PT at the moment is a bit of a FOTM, a feature of the month, as we used to refer to vehicles that were overperforming at any given point, right? The last plane in jet that I remember having this exact same feature was the CL-13. I specifically remember when it was introduced, it just was a bit too good, because it came out in a patch where 50 cals were, performing a bit better than they could. The plane had the best top speed. It didn't really have a counter. So at the moment, it's funny because we expected MiG-21 versus the F4 Phantom, and instead we got MiG-19 versus everything. Now, since I'm relatively new to jets, as that sounds weird, it might sound a bit weird, but I've last played jets in 1.69. So I'm new to this. I'm a newbie. I don't have the experience with stock planes. That's one big thing I have to emphasize. I haven't played a single match stock in any of the planes you'll see in the next week. All of these planes, bought with Golden Eagles, researched with Golden Eagles, not a penny of effort spent on it. Really, I took the easier way out, right? But that's because I can't be bothered to grind anymore, and I think I can use that excuse. Now, I don't want to comment on balance, right? Because I'm relatively new here. I haven't played jet seriously since 1.69. I don't want to relate anything other than a very, very minor subject opinions. I don't like the mixed matchmaker, I don't like the small maps, I don't like the nerf AAA, and I don't like the fact that there's bloody lag happening. Things like this, and things like this, pretty annoying. And this is completely down to the server. Gaijin's servers at the moment are absolute trash. I've done a lot of testing. This hasn't got anything to do with ping, it has anything to do with packet loss, it has nothing to do with even your internet, because I've tried disconnecting. Really, this is entirely an issue that is not even based around the Mach 0.95 that some people have been tweeting out. This is simply Gaijin's server hamster dying. So please, can you feed the damn hamster already? This video is supposed to be about an exploit, and we're about to get into it. War Thunder sometimes has issues, and when we encounter issues, there's a good old-fashioned quote. Improvise, adapt, overcome. And sometimes War Thunder players come out with these wonky-ass solutions that make absolutely no sense, but they're just brilliant. You know, 2 years ago, Whip Energy essentially made a MiG-21 by ripping the wings off a MiG-17. And it's these weird things that people do, you know, that you would never think of in a million years, that happened to me here. I spawned into my MiG-19, it was a match on Korea, you know, I didn't think much. I go into my site climb or whatever. I do generally actually site climb in jets, because I go AFK for like 3 minutes and then I'm watching a YouTube video and I'll come back and my screen is just full of red dots and I start panicking and I probably die. But regardless, I'm doing the flyout and then I'm looking for the enemy and there's nobody anywhere. And out of nowhere, we get, your airfield's been destroyed mission. You know, mission failed, return to hangar. And I was sitting there and I'm just thinking to myself, hold on a minute. There's no Tu-4s here. There's no Al-28s here. What just happened? You see, in the mass confusion of the F4 Phantom being, I guess, underwhelming compared to the MiG-19, and having a hard time winning matches, specifically because if you take a plane which relies heavily on its speed, and you put it onto these relatively small maps for that type of plane, you're forcing it to do a lot of turning, you're forcing it to bleed a lot of speed, you're forcing it into low altitude engagements, and that plane can't do it, which means that it's going to die, and that means that players and teams that are filled with Phantoms just disintegrate within minutes. And somebody, I don't know how this even happens, because in order to do it, I'm assuming there had to be a 4-man squad of players that just at one point decided, screw it, we're not going to fly with rockets, we're not going to fly with gun pods, we're going to take bombs out. We're going to do what people do in Tank RB, in carpet bombing, but we're going to do it in Air RB and carpet bomb the airfield instead. And the next match, the exact same thing happened. This is the weird solution to a problem. This is screaming that there is in fact something wrong with the Phantom. Now, my question here is, what are they going to do about it? Are they going to buff the F4? I mean, just today, as I'm making this video, a patch was made adding the AIM-9E missile to the Phantom. Now, being me, I have no idea what the AIM-9E is. I'm assuming that because it's E, it's, you know, 2 letters better than the B, which means it's probably a little bit of an improvement, but it's not going to make a big difference, I don't think, because most people flying the F4 tend to put on the 3 gun pods and just spray in head-ons with their Freedom Cals. So, you know, what are the alternatives? Can you buff the airfield? Can you know, are they even going to try to fix this? Because at the same point, I did try to do this myself, go into a match with the F4 Phantom, you know, because if you can't beat them, join them. And you've guessed it didn't work. This is one of those brilliant things that players have come up with that I like to call, it works, but not for me. Because whenever I try it, it just don't work. And I'm sure I'm not alone with this. I'm sure that other people have tried to do this, and either not enough players in the team had bombs on, or you got, you know, spotted by a plane and hunted down. Probably there's going to be clips on Thunder Show from people who failed to do their bombing run but ended up bombing somebody who's flying behind them. I'm sure possibilities are endless. But it does, I guess, pose the question, is the F4, what are they going to do with it? How are they going to balance it? Because at the moment, if there's one thing that sort of is keeping this game mode alive, it's funny because it's the one thing that I hate the most, and that is the mixed matchmaker. Every plane has its distinct disadvantages, things that it can't do that you shouldn't do when you're playing it, And if you spread that same plane across, an entire nation, everybody is playing it because they don't have much of a choice, it can create troubles. But this is why, in the past, Gaijin created maps like Preparation for Landing on Hokkaido. It was a map where the allies, Britain and America, would fight against each other. This was, in the old days, I found this to be brilliant. The map that started it all was Korea. On Korea, you have the allies fighting the Axis. But the Axis were Russia and Germany because it was in the time of Cold War. Obviously, the slight discrepancy was that the CL-13, which, would belong to West Germany, which would belong to the Allies, was in fact on the Axis side. But it was a slight, sort of hiccup. And I don't think anybody minded it because the MiGs suddenly now had a Sabre. So there was still a little bit of this mixed matchmaker. It's just that it wasn't the nations that were mixed, it was the vehicles. I'd like to see more of this historical accuracy brought back into the game. So Preparation for Landing on Hokkaido, Britain versus America, a scenario that normally would not happen. And I'm sure that if they took even a map that's based in the Pacific, that would in fact work, they could easily make it America versus Japan. And by doing so, you can relieve the matchmaker from an overwhelming spam of players. At the moment, there seems to be an overwhelming amount of Americans that are playing the F100, that are playing the F4, and when one class of vehicle in one battle ring is being spammed out more, it automatically creates this tendency for slow queue times, and therefore the quick solution, which is the rubbish one, is the mixed matchmaker. I don't know about most of you. I'm sure some of you don't mind this because you're just out there to have fun and play. And at the moment, it does, in fact, function for the most part. When I'm flying a MiG and it's a Russian MiG, the only other MiG I would ever want to see is the German one, in the case that it would be Germany versus Russia, not all nations versus all nations. Because if I wanted that, I have Arcade for it. And one last thing before I end this video, because I'm genuinely curious on this topic, I tweeted out whether people would love to see the vapor cloud when going supersonic removed. This is my subjective opinion, but for me, when I'm playing a game which has this beautifully modeled plane, I don't really care about the realistic aspect of some vapor, that's being emitted when the plane goes supersonic. This thing covers 1/3 of your monitor with a useless, crappy cloud particle effect, which makes aiming impossible, which makes watching a YouTube video with this feature in extremely obnoxious, and I don't think it contributes to anything. Now, I don't think it should be removed. I just think it should be removed for the person who's playing the game. So you can see other people's vapor trail, so you can spot them, and they can spot your vapor trail. You just don't see your own, so it's not distracting you. I think it's the simplest solution. It really doesn't take away from the experience, but I'm sure that this could also be an optional. I hear that in ULQ, the option, in ULQ, I don't guess you get the option. You just don't have the vapor cloud because my poor PC can't handle it. I mean, if ULQ users can be allowed to not have that feature on, then so should the rest of us. This is exactly the same, in my opinion, as the grass in optics when you're playing tanks. I have my grass in optics turned on because mach PC good, I want to see my pixels, and those that don't can turn them off. And it does, in fact, by turning it off, give you a slight edge. And I think that the exact same should be done here. Either an option should be introduced, or like I said, just don't have it on the person who's viewing the play, because it really doesn't add anything. I mean, I doubt there's anybody playing this game which, if the vapor cloud was removed, would be like, yeah, no, this renders my jet-only War Thunder account useless. Don't make me laugh. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you again next time. And